Holding court with Farah Malim, who is a member of parliament for Dadaab, and Isaac Maro, a politician. And also, we were holding court with Dr. Otieno Molo, who's just left right now. And of course, we'll be doggedly following what will be the latest development. We have the former CS Matiang'i, who will be appearing before the DCI, who has summoned him. He was out of the country. Today he's going to show up as well. And we'll be covering that for you live, of course, much later in the course of the program today. But Farah, on this other side of the track, as we continue of the break, we want just to look at the latest development so far that has been put regarding the land issue. But before I head there, I wanted also you to get a response because we had Otieno Molo really talking about the latest IEBC selection panel, that members of Azimio, they didn't want to participate on that particular issue. We saw them walking out, and they're saying this is purely a Kenya Kwanza forum, and the president has been given that carte blanche to actually select, the constitution of the selection panel. Isaac Maura, let me just begin with you on that particular note. First of all, if we begin the selection panel and doing the interviews right now, we have one faction of, Parliament who are not endorsing, blessing this selection panel. Are we bound to see challenges ahead and legal minefields being raised? And we've had also the majority leader of the Senate, Aaron Cheriot, speaking and saying that they were given an opportunity to challenge this particular issue. But where were they? We've not heard their voices. They've walked out. So where will they even come and criticize the entire process? And they had a handy opportunity to try and critique it.
I think they are outnumbered and outmaneuvered, and I think they would want to have the same legitimacy. Remember the same running call against the IEBC. Raila Odinga has been very consistent with bashing IEBC, and it has not started now. It started way back in 2007 with Kivuito. Kivuito went down. It happened with IEC, Isaac Hassan. It happened again with Chebukati in 2017. But thank God Chebukati was able to finish his tenure. Now, what they are questioning is exactly the procedure to replace the commissioners whose allegiance was with them, the handshake Cherera 4. And I'm happy that the way the law was changed, it is the PSC that is providing this procedure. I can even see in today's newspaper, page 9 of the Daily Nation and 11th of the Standard, there has been an advertisement of the chairperson's position and one commissioner, and I believe they are Kenyans and young Kenyans who qualify, who can actually apply for the job. So when you walk out of Parliament, you've not even given your dissenting views on the floor of the House. It's just political rigmarole. It's nothing to do with the facts on the ground, because on what basis would you be saying the process is flawed? I mean, what is it that you raise before any constitutional court, other than the fact that you are creating grounds for political mobilization by telling people that's why we walked out, that's why why? It's a Kenya Kwanza procedure in what way? PSC has got 2 nominees, for example, in the panel, and they are objectively Kenyans applied for, and people like Kisotu, who is a PSC commissioner, Public Service Commission commissioner, has been asked to lead the process. So then, on what basis then would you be saying that you do not have faith in the process? Of course, it's understandable, Debara, that the whole issue is about wanted to have friendly commissioners, which then would not obtain. And if, I want to say this with a lot of categorically, if then having 4 out of 7 commissioners in the last election did not make Azimio win elections, I don't think even by having them now it will make them to do so. But of course they have to remain relevant. They have to be seen to be putting the government to task on its toes. And walkouts are generally, common. In our parliament. I have participated in such before, but by the end of the day, the majority will always have their way. So I don't think it's going to really, in my humble submission, going to change much. But of course, if Raila Odinga wants to make presentations at the IEBC, he will make those presentations because it is a way of showing that there is something, this idea of, conjecture, speculating, and building up a narrative has to be having facts on the ground. You know, the facts is just a not well thought out mass walkout, and I don't think Kenyans are used to that. You know. Let me tell you, Deval, if Kenya was the way it was before, and Otiende Amolo has run away, he's gone away here because I wanted to respond to him.
And he's not really run away. I think he's heading where you're actually saying he's representing someone.
Matiang'i.
Yes.
The only thing is that he has also not represented facts here very well, saying that about CISs and what have you. That is the appointing authority that will make sure. And everybody who gets appointed has been interviewed, and PSC has a decision to make on that. But let me not comment on that. The point I'm trying to say is that they are trying to make every issue and raise grounds for showing, creating apathy amongst Kenyans, trying to show that they are the ones on the right side. But that narrative cannot be, sway. Because before, if the Raila was saying to Naira Mandamano, the country would be on a standstill. But people have moved on. People are more concerned with how they live their life. They also know very well, the legitimacy that Raila used to have was taken away by being in the handshake. He had all the apparatus controlled for him, I think, by President Uhuru and Akina Matiang'i. But now, the things did not work out the way they wanted. So, really, personally, I don't think there's any agency. I think it is very clear the law was changed. The appointing authorities are very clear. The nominating bodies like LSK have already given, I think, Ben Gugi to sit in that commission, in that selection panel. Let Kenyans of goodwill appear, those that have already applied, and they're quite a number. And then may the best persons who can, spearhead the elections process in Kenya be given the opportunity.
Farah Maalim, you want to respond to this issue of IEBC right now?
Yeah. I mean, we've done.
Being chaired by Nelson Makanda.
Yeah, we've done lots of things, Dibal, in this country. From the IPPG. Was it IPPG?
Yes.
Yes, from the IPPG days. I was in Parliament that time, in the 7th Parliament. We are now in the 13th Parliament. It is from that time until today, 7 parliaments. More since then than since independence. And we agreed that we were going to nominate 10, and we nominated our 10. And we still had problems. There was still serious and very blatant, flagrant, widespread rigging, particularly in the areas, those marginal areas, which are those days termed as Kanu zones. I'm talking about the 7th Parliament. When we had our own people there, we had the likes of Abuya, and many others. We then went on and settled on Kivuitu, who was somebody, in my opinion, of a lot of integrity, the late Kivuitu. But we still got into problems, very serious problems. Although the one of 2002 was difficult to manipulate. I mean, to sow what do you call unanimous. It was so landslide that Kibaki, Uhuru lost really badly. So you couldn't rig that one. You couldn't lift somebody from almost 4 million votes and somebody who has just barely above 1 million votes and say the one with the 1 million votes is the winner. But we still got rid of him. You get my point. In 2007, 2007, I believe that those elections were rigged in favor of Kibaki, and Raila won that election, fairly. But of course, there was a serious rigging. And we've had rigging since that time. And so it doesn't matter whether you have a friendly, what do you call IEBC, whether you have an above board IEBC, whether you have, there are always these big complaints. So I think, for me, the best election since I came in the first time was the first time when I came in and the last time, this time, because it was, in my case, it was very fair. The parliamentary elections that were conducted in my constituency in the last election was very fair. More so because the returning officer was somebody who you could not buy with all the money in the world. Not that people did not try to buy him with hundreds of millions of shillings, but he still stood his ground, was very firm. So I think because we are depending on the whims, sometimes you can have very good commissioners here, but if you have a returning officer who is a crook, then he will rig you out and announce the wrong results. That happened to me myself in 2017. It happened to me in 2013, and all those things happened. And and it happened to me in 1997. In all 3 cases, I had won, but I was still the loser was declared the winner. My point now is let us invest in technology more than anything else. In India, they have, I don't know how many 100 million people who vote in the elections. And at the same time, late afternoon, you know who is going to win this election.
But technology, if you're talking about technology, this has been a bane of contention here.
Yes.
I mean, we have the finest, sort of technology so far as
No, it was not the
electioneering process is concerned.
It wasn't the finest, let me be honest with you on this one. Because what happens in that the technology I'm talking about is the one in which the voter goes into the, the booth, and you can see the names of the people, you touch them, and you have your biometrics, and you walk out of it there. Here, if the first clerk, you are illiterate or semi-illiterate, and the first clerk, or you are not even a voter in that constituency, but the clerk who has the machine has the capacity to tell you that, okay, you are there on the record, even if you're not there. And the agents are kept far distance from that. So anybody can manipulate. The returning officer can manipulate. The employment of the clerks, the presiding officers, the deputy presiding officers.
So that is the system issues, is not particularly
it is the human nature.
That's what I'm saying. How then do we course correct that moving forward? That
I think you can
you need to be immersed in the entire process, even on what the clerks are doing when they're identifying.
You can't unless
the
you
voter.
you invest in a superior technology like the one of India. That's the only way. Because you can have the best commissioners out there, but you have returning officers who are crooked, they'll mess you. If you have a returning officer who goes and recruits clerks from all of them from the other side, they'll mess you.
All right.
And so basically what we need to do for us to stop this thing once and for all, let us invest in technology such that you walk in there into the booth, and as the voting goes on, everybody and anybody can see how well he's doing or she's doing. I mean, that happens in India.
All right, so we have a sort of a projection.
Absolutely. Even in the Look at the American elections, the way it's happening.
Like we did in Bomas of Kenya.
Yes.
So you can actually plug into the system as maybe a read-on. You can't manipulate, only the clerk can do it. But for the sake of projection, if we can see the identification of so-and-so who has come in to cast his vote, also is projected there as identified by the system itself. Okay, I'm not really an expert on that.
But this one is centralized. You see, right now we're using KIMS for specific constituencies and specific areas, and returning officers are the ones who send the returns. The returns, that's what they call the returning officers.
No, for the agents as well to actually be
so
privy to
what we want a system in which, as you vote for the presidential election, it goes straight. It does not go through anybody. You don't have to fill a form 34A or anything else.
Let's look at the issue of that, because I think that is looking forward, the long-term plans on IEBC.
No, they're doing it in the States, they're doing it in
I agree,
in,
but
in
for
India,
now, we're talking about the selection panel.
Yes.
And this is sort of a bellwether to what the opposition will come and say at the end of the day. We do not identify these commissioners that have been selected so far because it was not a participatory process from the beginning. We had the upper hand of the executive controlling the entire process, even of selecting the panel itself. So even when we have finally a list that will be presented to the president, and these are the commissioners that they've actually checked out the boxes in terms of qualification, and we do not have the blessings of the opposition. We are bound to just be going and having the same suckers we've been having in 2013, 2017, and now also 2027. So don't you see there is a problem already? This is what I'm trying to address. Moving on, that there is a problem because and that's we are going in this vicious cycle. Then how do we break out from and cut this Gordian knot?
The question you're asking is very legitimate, because we started by saying it is a manual, we are being rigged out, and for sure a manual is very easy to rig out. Where we went electronic, now Azimio is saying we were also rigged out.
Not Azimio, everybody, all these things.
I think Azimio, because personally I was a presidential agent, and from the look of things, at least from what I was able to see, both in Mount Kenya West, where I was in charge, and Kiambu Town, and also when we were doing the elections for governor, the governor from Mombasa, it's very difficult to steal these elections, to be honest. It's very, at least at the polling station, which is final, it's extremely difficult, because why? You come in there.
Even at the absence of agents that
yes, how do you let me ask you how you
very easy.
It's very easy to steal.
No.
It's very easy to steal.
For me, let me speak from what I know. It's very difficult. Let me tell you how. You come in there, you do your biometrics and you reflect. And then you move on to the next place where you're given the ballots and all of the way to the time you vote. Now if you are not in the system, they had a system where they'll take your photo and of course transmit and what have you. And this is real time. You can actually see the percentage of voting and what have you. So for me, saying that stealing is difficult, and also the absence of agents. Let's talk about the absence of agents.
But the stuffing is not really electronic. You can actually stuff these boxes.
No, you can't.
That's the issue.
You can't stuff boxes because let me finish.
Okay.
If you have to do scrutiny, like for example, which was done during the presidential elections, you can actually see, is there a discrepancy between the BVR and what is in the ballot? Are there a number of votes that are more than this other one? And clearly, if there is, that election is flawed. And if you can easily prove, because what do you need to do? You need just to move the court to have them open the ballots, and then there is a recount, and then there is data that is already, in the BVR kits. So I don't let us not try to demonize an election just because some people never won the elections. At least from where I stand, coming to the issue of agents, whose responsibility is it to make sure that they have their agents? It is the responsibility of the candidate. So if candidate A did not, have agents, and then goes ahead to blame the system, it is his own failure. Like for example, in Kenya Kwanza, we had 46,000 polling stations. We had 2 agents for every polling station, and we had over 100,000 of them. I was involved in their training. We had the trainer of trainers. We were very organized in how it was done. Now, if the other side did not organize that properly, surely it was an issue. Even paying those agents was a nightmare. Remember, we really had to do that over many days, but eventually we've not had anyone complaining from Kenya Kwanza that they were never paid, that kind of thing. So it is how you get organized yourself. Who are the personnel on the ground? Are they trustworthy? The BAL, by the end of the day, if you are the chief agent, it is up to you to be faithful and to be loyal. It's not a question of the candidate sitting in somewhere in Nairobi, but trusting you, and then so if you get compromised, again, it is also an issue of the quality of the agents that you brought on board and how people are convicted to your cause. Now, I saw Atiku Abubakar was protesting yesterday in Lagos and Nigeria. He's run since 1993. I think it is the same thing like for Raila Odinga. He's run 6 times. He was vice president. Raila Odinga has done 5 times. That is a euphemism, isn't it? Okay. No, but you can compare Nigerian and Kenyan elections. They had 93 million elected voters, but I think only 20-something were able to vote, which of course is a huge voter suppression. However, I must also say this. Increasingly, I think people are becoming apathetic to democracy. Because the turnout, if here Kenya, 8 million people never voted. In Nigeria, if they voted, I think I was counting about 25, I could be wrong, but the candidate who won by 8 million votes. The next one had 6.9, I think. The other one had 6.2 or thereabouts.
At least almost they had a registration of half the population.
Yeah, so 93 versus those about 25 million or thereabout, or 23. That means over 70 million people never voted. That's quite telling. Here, if you convert 8 million, the percentage of the people who never voted, you can clearly see, and even the turnout was just about 62%, the whole of it in the country. So it's like generally people are becoming apathetic to democracy, and that's the question that we need to ask ourselves who find ourselves on this other side of politics. Is it that people do no longer trust politicians? Do they believe in change? Have people moved on with life? However, the trust issue of the integrity of the vote, of the franchise, on whether it can be compromised, really can never be cured by any form of technology. I don't think so. We can only increase the probability of the sanctity of the vote. But even if we were to just say here, the 3 of us, to cast a vote, and we all know there are 3 votes and we put them there, whether somebody decides to cheat on it, basically it's about our own, it's a reflection of integrity. When I was in Parliament, one of the things that I kept on saying that was very surprising is that even amongst parliamentarians, there are always spoiled votes, because you'd expect such kind of an elite that nobody would actually, miss it out. So cheating is not necessarily a question of the quality of the technology. That's what I'm submitting in the ballot.
Thank you.
It's a question of people just deliberately wanting to bungle an election, to be mischievous, to actually do things in a certain manner as to.
Thank you.
And let me finish by this point. And that you can, of course, expect in a very hotly contested election, that people will not restrain themselves to submit themselves to an impartial procedure, even when the IEBC, no matter who is the chairman of the commission, have tried their best to have an impartial process.
All right.
And when also people have been recruited to superintend over elections in an impartial manner, the question would be whether they were actually rightfully recruited for that purpose, or they were actually recruited to go and influence an outcome in favor of whoever was the appointing authority.
So, and I pose this question to you, Farah, as well, because we had Otende here from the beginning of the program talking about how this selection panel is a lapdog of the executive. Do you hold the same view that this is a lapdog of the executive, right from Nelson Makanda himself, and we have the vice chair from the Public Service Commission, and the rest of the panel as it is? And if it's a lapdog of the executive, what does it portend moving forward?
I frankly, I don't know any of those folks who are there, and I've not been that abreast with it. But it's always good to have a system that is so foolproof that you eliminate the possibility of anybody crying foul. So the government of the day, in my opinion, in as much as it's there now, and it has 5 years to prove itself even better. If it seriously wants to do that, they should try and make sure that there is a very open, transparent, and completely, devoid of any flaws process for them to be able to sustain the legitimacy. Incumbency always has got a certain advantage. So being the incumbent, he has a chance of winning the elections again. I mean, if he won it when everything was against him, I want to assume that he must have a plan to win the next one, but not unfairly. Not unfairly, because then the best way is that let the process and the system be pretty much above board, so that there is no reason for one to cry foul. So if I were in the UDA government, the Kenya Kwanza government, I will try and make sure that this is as open, as transparent, as legitimate as possible, and we have people of men and women of serious integrity, and tell them, okay, go and do your job, and then just make sure that things are not messed. And I also still insist on the investment in
technology.
Because I want to see a situation in which halfway through the day I can see how well I'm doing myself. You get my point? Yeah. Everybody can see it, because you have the biometric, and you have your own choice of a candidate, and there you go. Yeah, this is who do you want, so and so. There's two agents, okay. Even if you are the same illiterate, you touch a button, it registers in the system straight away. Who do you want for the president, so and so? It registers in the system straight away. So you can watch the system from the comfort of your own bedroom after you've voted yourself. So don't you think? Same way they do it in India.
But as a mayor, you've been complaining that this system was gamed. How intact would that system be? You'll still have the same issues.
That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying.
The system was gamed. We have Jose Camargo from Venezuela, interfering with the system. Even if you have a tight technology, then it will not insulate you from the fact that you will have.
I think it will. I think if we invest in that, look, the Russians, the Chinese, all these people, the Americans, would love to interfere in the elections in other countries, but they still have a problem doing it. All those countries still get their choices.
Okay.
You get my point? It's because there are ways you can make these things foolproof, and I think we can make it. In the very least, we can afford that.
Okay. I want to ask you, Farah, before you move on, the fact that we have this new selection panel, finally we have the commissioners that will be there, they will still carry the skunk of Azimio, that they want the server opened.
The previous server.
Yes, the previous server. No, currently what you're talking about, you want
Yes.
the server. Doesn't Raila is asking for the servers to be open?
Yes.
That is a bone of contention. And we
Yes.
have the president replying that,
Yes.
the constitution does not give any provisions for the servers to be opened right now. I mean,
Yes.
people made their choice, and that's
Yes.
final. The Supreme Court has spoken, finally.
Yeah.
So, they will begin sort of on a wrong footing with the skunk of their other, of the previous IEBC commission. What is your response to that?
Well, look, personally, this thing has been determined, yes. But then we need right now, you see, in my opinion, there is very little we can do in as far as the last election is concerned. I mean, we went through the elections, somebody won with the...
You're holding demonstrations.
Just a moment. Somebody won with the razor thin margin. We went ahead and accepted it in principle and said we don't agree with the ruling, but we accept the ruling. You get my point? That's what democracy is about, by the way, let me tell you. You give an opportunity to somebody. What now we have to do is to prepare ourselves so that this does not happen again. And stay tight, watch this country, see the way they're doing things. When they make mistakes, we don't go out there, demonstrate, and tell them you're making mistakes, so correct them. No, let them make as many mistakes as possible. So we just point out to Kenyans, you see, we warned you. We warned you. You people made the wrong choices in some cases. And then you get a landslide in the next election. By the time you get to the elections, the masses, by and large, will be tired of this system, the government that's there of the day. That way is how to win elections. The way to win elections is not to force your opponent, who are the government of the day, to make the right decisions. Let me tell you one thing. That way you're promoting them. Let them keep on making the wrong decisions, and all you need to do is just to point out. So that by the time you get to the time, people are sick and tired of them.
But Farah, you're reading from a different script from your party leader. And you're the,
No.
you're
You see,
the deputy party leader of WIPA.
Look. I like I told you from the beginning myself, my party leader, we are both very, very, very accomplished, very respectable Democrats. I went before when we were going for this thing. What was that committee called? When we went through before there was the commission we went through.
Which commission?
No. We were just before the last elections. There was this when we were propagating for the different systems. We were trying to make certain changes. I think it was the BBI. Is it?
BBI.
Yeah,
BBI.
BBI. When they were doing these things, I appeared before them, and I was of the opinion that the system we had was a flawed system, a presidential system. We should not go for it. Let's go back to the parliamentary. Let's go back to a parliamentary system and have a ceremonial president. And my party leader, who was next to me, who was of a different opinion altogether, who was in favor of an executive president, he made his submissions, and he says, my deputy has a different submission, so I listen to him too. You know what I mean? He has a different opinion about these things. We don't share this opinion. We have a difference on this. I want to, and I made my point.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, we maintain the party. He's the leader of the party. I'm the deputy leader of the party. But there are a number of areas that I think I have my issues with myself.
Thank you.
And as far as the Azimio is concerned, not with him, but the Azimio is concerned.
Okay. Yeah. Isaac, first of all, the question I also posed to Farah Maalim, you think this election panel is a lapdog of the executive? And how will it pretend moving forward, finally with the commissioners, if we have the executive having the upper hand?
I think...
if I just add one thing before, any system that's in place would want to try and manipulate things in its own favor. But if there's that vigilance to stop that, that's why I'm saying myself, at the end of the day, let us invest in something that is foolproof. So my position is that there might never be a total understanding on the composition of that thing. There could be give and take, and we could push for a different thing. But at the final analysis, you need a system that protects everybody.
I think it depends on who is saying that. Because you see now, if you recuse yourself from participating in the process, the aim is exactly that, to say we never participated, and so therefore this thing is biased and we don't support it. It actually sets the ground to delegitimate the outcome that such group of commissioners will superintend upon. So it's a long shot and some kind of a cushioning on the side of Azimio, so that then eventually if they were to participate in an election, and then they don't win, then they will say it's because from the word go, the commissioners were not put in place in a free and fair manner. But because that has been their tool of trade, in terms of all of these years, is to say that the elections were bungled and that we did not get the true will of the people, and that seems to resonate with their supporters. Then you can therefore understand the situation where they will say that indeed they will never come to say that this process was free and fair. Even when they were to participate and have their own people, they would argue that then the incumbent had more latitude than they would, because eventually the person who appoints all of these independent offices is the president, is the appointing authority. So I think the BAL, it's just the usual way, the polemic way of political contestation.
So if I may ask you, because there's this whole issue that is being raised. We had the delegated legislative committee in the Senate that had their proposals regarding also the selection panel, even the involvement of the Public Service Commission. This from the Senate being chaired by Hilary Sigay. And that particular proposal, before it was even tabled, it was rubbished because they wanted to actually sort of bring in hygiene in this selection panel from the beginning. Don't you think also that points to the fact that there was influence from the government?
I think, I hear your question.
Yeah.
But a legislative proposal is only just that, a legislative proposal. And you cannot say that it was more superior than what the...
But you didn't give even a time of a day.
No, but you see
to
now,
let even be tabled and also people to debate about, regarding the proposals.
When you go to Parliament and you have proposals, if Farah Maalim has got a proposal, and I have a proposal, and then there's a proposal by the committee. The committee, the committee proposal always carries the day.
It did.
Yeah.
That's
because
what I'm
then
saying.
We are told to drop.
Yes.
But then, if the party has a different view, it may even countermand that one of the committee, and that's a question of numbers. We have had situations where some of these proposals have been, shot down on the floor of the House when they have come from the committee. And I remember very well, sometimes you say you are going to impeach a certain governor in the Senate, but then the committee thinks differently, and the plenary thinks differently. The plenary will always have, it's how you marshal the troops. So we cannot say therefore, the BAL, as maybe somebody may want to put it across, that whatever had been proposed by the committee was more superior, because it doesn't matter how you argue in politics. Unfortunately, this is a reality. It's a game of numbers. It's how you vote. It's not even about the logic itself. It is just purely a game of numbers. People will cast their lots, and whoever has the majority will see light of day. Well, one can argue maybe we will converse on the floor of the House, people will advance arguments, but it all still boils down to ayes and nays. So really right now, we cannot say that then whatever proposal that may have come from the committee would have been more, bipartisan, would have been more neutral. What obtains is currently the case, but I also see a situation where the opposition is just trying to build their case to reject the elections in 2027.
All right. I think also we are time poor a bit, and we wanted just to dedicate a few minutes on discussing an issue. And Farah, you being the member of a speaker's panel, this will come to the floor of the House as a draft bill that is being steamrolled by Joseph Gitari, the Member of Parliament of Kirinyaga Central. And this is just in an effort to try and tame the land sharks in this country who have been, spawning off and sponging off Kenyans of their money. We have so many land companies, being advertised every which way in this country. Some of them have gone under. We see changing of directorships and just changing names and rebranding after, stealing from Kenyans. Now, this bill that, it's not even been given any name as it is, but of course the content has been spewed there. What the intent of the bill is all about is that if you, as a company, want to be the land buying company, you have to deposit a eye-popping figure of 500 million shillings, first of all, with the government, so that you can be given a license to operate. Do you think this is the right way to go? And what will developers, or maybe some of these companies?
It's a problem. Let me tell you one thing. It's a serious problem because we do a lot of that in my community. There's a lot of those kind of developments that have sprung up. You know, you cannot police, you cannot regulate, you cannot legislate honesty. Integrity cannot be legislated. You get my point? And that kind of money is way out of the reach of anybody. That we will have a problem getting as many what they call flats and houses developed in this place as the nation needs.
But if you have...
But hang on a minute, let me explain to you. Now we have in the community I come from, that thing is not there. That problem does not exist. And even if it exists, only it's very minimally. We pay money. I've done a lot of times that to a developer, and he does a job. He does a job. Quite often he uses the money that he has collected from the buyers to do the development, but you know, they do it because they're also in business and they do very well. But some of them have developed to 10, 15, 20.
If I may just butt in a bit further, don't you think, I know from your community.
Yes.
And
that honesty is there.
Yeah, honesty is there. Yes. I mean, I can really bank on your word.
I do understand also.
Yeah, but we're talking about the entire sector that we have rocked. And we've seen so many people, even some of them, you know, dying of suicide because they've been ripped off.
KTN is another one. You know, KTN. KTN has a serious problem. You know,
Saiton. Yes. We have serious problem right now with
Saiton. Serious problem, and many people have lost their lifetime savings.
Yes. So those are the things. Don't you think they need to be a bit of hygiene on that particular sector as it is right now? And this is a good initiative. So when you're talking, you cannot regulate honesty, but you still have Leadership and Integrity Act in the Constitution. You cannot regulate morality.
Yes.
But in terms of putting mechanisms to save Kenyans from this rogue.
Okay, let's say for argument's sake, you know, let me tell you one thing. You can have one developer who is developing 5, 6, properties at the same time, high-rise flats, 15-story, 17-story. And what would be your estimation of each one of them? You know, a couple of billion shillings to put that together. With 60 or 70 or even 100 units sometimes. And each one of them costing, 15 million and above. So for some people, it's been not a big deal to put that kind of money in place. But for a lot of upcoming, budding developers, to expect them to put up a deposit of 500 million shillings somewhere, and for them still to service, because they collect the money from the buyers themselves, is a problem. So you're right. There are many Kenyans who have lost their money to middlemen who are crooks. But there are also many people who dealt with very honest people and who ended up becoming property owners and are living in not one property, 2 properties, even sometimes up to 3 or 4. My own children, who are professionals, have bought a lot through a very fair way in which they keep on paying slowly. They don't have to pay the interest because we don't pay interest ourselves. Interest for us is haram, it's usury. But of course, for people like that, honest people like the communities I come from, this is going to affect them badly. For many crooks who have siphoned off the monies of people who are in the diaspora and from other parts of the country, and who pseudo, I know you can't trust your own brother with $1 million shillings right now to go and do business. I can trust mine with 100 million if I had it.
You think you can't trust mine?
I know it. Ask Maura, he will tell you the same thing. But the cultures are different. People who are very individualistic in some cases, you know what I mean? Yeah. For us, it's a society. We live together. And somehow we feel for one another, and there's always a social mechanism to even restore what they call sanity into the community whenever there are problems, which you don't have yourself. You have to go to court. We don't go to court ourselves. And that's why you see far less, maybe 0.00 something% of the Muslims will go to the courts to go and determine what they call the estates of somebody when he dies, because it's an easier way in which we deal with these things. But of course, in other communities, everybody goes to court. Look of all the prominent families that you know, the Karumes, the Michukis now are here. Every family where the matriarch or the patriarch passed on, and then there was money left in there, and the children, the same brothers and sisters. We don't have that ourselves. Everything is sorted out within a small city like this over a cup of tea or dinner, and people go their separate ways. So for us, it's going to be a problem, I can assure you. So that kind of a requirement will really impede this honest businessmen from some communities. But for some communities, it's very important to protect them from this, what you call predators.
Daba, let me ask you a question. Does it mean because somebody has to have a deposit of 500 million, that makes them more honest?
This is the point.
You see,
this is the point.
It's a sort of a cushion.
This is the point.
It's not a cushion.
It's a cushion.
It's not a cushion because
it's a little bit of a security, a little bit of an insurance.
But I think the most crooked will have the money because they know how to get it. You see, there are many genuine small-time land sellers who cannot sell. It's almost like you are being told to start a bank, because when you start a bank, I think the minimum was 500 million, is it a billion, one of the two. I have been swindled myself, Isaac Maura, way back in 2010. I was
on land issues?
Yes. I was to buy 2 acres of land in Makuyu at a cost of 1.5 million. I've never seen the title deed. I only have some pieces of paper. And the next time I went to check the owners of Duo Investment, and I stand by my words because it's me talking, they had already been auctioned from Jubilee House in Mamangina Street. And many people have actually been conned off because I was naive that time, to be very honest. I was excited to buy this piece of land, but it did not exist. Eventually, I found that they only had 38 acres, but they were trying to show us if they were buying the whole acre of these 200 acres. And they had advertised on a very popular media station and with very influential media personalities that made us all believe that it was true. And there are many, in fact, maybe you could be watching, who faced what I did because we are in a group of, I think, 600 or more people. So yes, it is true that land swindlers are many, even this off-plan, buying of property and what have you. But I have not interrogated what are the real proposals, but raising the amount deposit is good in a way, because if then you steal from people, they can be paid off using that money. And to act off as a deterrent as well. Yeah, maybe to pay off people. Deterrent, I am not sure. Deterrent, I am not sure, because it will, people who have a good idea, then it's just like raising collateral capital. So you are locking out so many entrepreneurs who would work out things. But then to cushion people from after they have been swindled, that money can be used to pay off whoever has stolen your money. That I think for me is something good. But we want to look at the whole proposal. But of course, what I'm trying to say in short, regulation of that space is very important. And also, if you look at it from what Honorable Farah was speaking about, if you look at it in the newspapers... Put
this thing here because it's showing on the camera. Just put it here.
Let me just...
No, the courtesy. As you're biting you... I think you caught him off guard, so he has to chew it. No, we can't talk and chew at the same time.
Let me tell you what happened to me myself, individually. I mean, in 1989, I bought properties from the late Munene Kairu in Amboseli. It's somewhere near South Sea, those sides. He was selling, he was developing those days, Harlingham, lots of places. This place was all jungle those days. There was nothing in these places. And I remember I brought in the equivalent of $30,000 those days, and a house was costing, I can't remember, $750,000 or something like that. They were cheap. And I gave him the deposit for 2 houses, and then we met in Parliament. Well, he's still working on that. He came to Parliament in the 7th Parliament. We met in Parliament, and I kept on chasing him and telling when will the property be ready. And it was not ready. He wasn't able to put these things together very well. I don't know what happened.
But he had good intent.
I had a very good intent. Yeah. I just took some receipts from him. And then he couldn't give me back the money. He couldn't give me a property. After the elections of 1997, I went back to him. And not long later he died. He passed on. I never went back to the family. I never went back to the estate. I never went back to the offices.
So you lost your money?
I lost my money, but because there's no way I can go there. And he was a friend of mine, very good friend. He was one of the big financiers for Kibaki the early days, and so I just decided no, I'm not going to bother the children of my late departed friend. And that was the end of it. But see, how many Kenyans can do that? You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Particularly in the culture I come from. That's very common, by the way.
That means you also have a lot of money.
No, I didn't have money. I wasn't rich at all. In our culture, you will find I know of somebody who went into a partnership with somebody else with a small amount of money, about 2 million shillings those days, less than 2 million actually, and he died many years later. And the other partner, and nobody in the family, nobody in his immediate family of the deceased knew that this man was in a partnership with another one. And then many years later, when the man died, that other partner brought 50 million shillings of those days to the family of Mzee Akasema, hii pesa ni yenu. Wow. Your father gave me so much. I made so much out of it. You know, he did some very good livestock business, and this is his. And I think he gave him less than about 1 million shillings, I think. And he said, "This is your money now." I've also made it a lot. He himself was actually financed by that late guy. But you know the way goodwill is there.
Yeah.
So for us, it's even worse when somebody has passed on. You either forgive, or you and if you're holding the money yourself, you can take it.
Thank you.
So, but then the problem, I do understand that many Kenyans who are living outside the country in the diaspora have had to face, because I heard many stories where people go in there, make a serious sales through the media houses, through the everything, and people invest in money from all over, and then the banks, the Asian banks. You remember the early Asian banks? I mean, for them actually it was everything. The banks, the Nakumats, too many ventures that looked big, and you never expected. Who expected Nakumat was going to collapse?
Indeed.
You get my point? Right. Who expected Triton was going to collapse?
Indeed. Issue of corporate governance with that as well. Farah, we need to wind up, and I thank you so much. So I can see Isaac Mwaura and Farah, when this bill comes to the floor of the House as well,
I think we have to strike a balance.
We'll strike a balance. We have legislators also who have interest in this particular field of development. Are they going to support this?
Not many.
But we do not know. They have proxies.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, frankly.
So you as a speaker,
by the way, that thing has been it's no longer the way it used to be before. Right now, it has been demystified. In the olden days, the only people you could do and give money to build a house for you used to be the big people that you can trust. These days, there are young people who are coming up there, and we're doing a fantastic job. And I'm basically flying that you can invest with. So if one set of group are crooked, I'm sure they'll find another set of groups that are honest.
Indeed.
But then to legislate now and stop it, it's a problem.
Your closing remarks.
I'm just saying that this building in Parliament, this one that has cost the taxpayer 8 billion. How can a building cost 8 billion, honestly?
8 billion, and in fact that was the issue that we were supposed to raise, but I don't have time. 8 billion, and right now you're still going to the hotels. I mean, they're still going to the hotels, some of the posh hotels, almost 16 billion shillings.
No, I don't think...
is it 16 million shillings?
No, but 16 billion
on hospitality.
I don't think you can spend 16 billion in Parliament. Maybe that's the whole amount spent by Parliament.
No, I'm saying 16 million shillings.
The newspaper here, the Star says 16 billion here. That's what, I'm reading it from here. And that may be the whole cost of 6 months in Parliament, because the budget of Parliament the last time we checked was 32 billion.
We need to wind up.
Yeah, but then what I want to say is that I think this is also not very good. 8 billion for a building in town. The most this for me can cost is 2 billion.
And you're not using it.
Yeah, and you're not using it. You're
going
for
the committee meetings in the hotels, high-end hotels. If you read that particular article.
Yes.
I think that is a story for another day, because I'm being hounded out of studios. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I want you just to give you 20 seconds to give your closing remarks.
I think I want to wish Kenyans a nice week and a new month, and I hope that things are going to ease up and improve. And we are waiting to see who stole our money, and we are fully backing the Deputy President's revelations. I disagree with the sentiments expressed here about him by Otiende Amolo.
All right, thank you. Faramali, your closing remarks?
Yeah, mine is there's a lot of politics in the country, but Kenyans are suffering. The drought, the effects of the drought are very severe. We've been losing livestock before. We're likely to start losing lives now. So
we're already losing lives.
Yes, we're already losing lives. Whereas I commend the few efforts made by the government here and there, but that is a serious emergency has got to be declared. We went with the Vice President, with the Deputy President, to a place called Malimin to make what we call a flash appeal globally, with a number of UN agencies and all of them available, what we call present there. I think what the government needs to do right now is to rush food and provisions to those places. And we have right now refugees who have come all the way from Wajir and parts of Mandera who are in Garissa, because Garissa had a little bit of a rainfall, they've lost their livestock.
Thank you, Farah.
And we're going to get so many IDP camps there. So I'm calling on the government to even empower the nomadic schools so that the children of such people can also still go to school, and we empower those people.
Thank you. Thanks, Farah. I really appreciate your company yesterday, today. You've been very invaluable in terms of contributing to this conversation. Isaac Moro, I really appreciate you as well. In absentia, I want to thank also Senate Council Dr. Otieno Molo, who had to, of course, go early today. He representing, of course, this particular case that is ongoing of Matangi as well, so he had to be at the DCI's directorate this morning. Thank you.
2 years ago.
Farah, we're winding up. No, I need to go. Thank you very much for your valiant company. We do this tomorrow on Global Today, looking at matters foreign policy, diplomacy, and security as well with our panelists tomorrow. Thank you for your valiant company. Enjoy the rest of the viewing here on KTN News, where you get the whole story.